Good evening, friends, and welcome to an unscheduled, well, it is a scheduled live stream. Breaking news out of Colorado. Barry Morphew rearrested in the murder of his wife. We don't even like to call Suzanne Morphew his wife because back on Mother's Day in 2020, May 10th, 2020, he reported Suzanne missing. He was arrested. The charges were dropped with prejudice, and they're back at it again. Ed, they locked him up today. We didn't even, it just came out of nowhere. Your thoughts on this news?
Well, it was without prejudice. That's why they can charge him again. If it was with prejudice, he'd be charged.
I'm thinking of, I was just thinking of Karen Reed when they kept asking for.
Yeah. I don't understand these husbands. I don't get it. It's like the third case that we've highlighted that husband gets caught on surveillance cameras in a town depositing things in city garbage cans and dumpsters all around the town. Okay. Some interesting things came out in the indictment. That's new information that we are now privy to. The site where she was found apparently isn't where she decomposed. The clothing appears not to have been worn while she was decomposing. There was no insect information associated with that area, and very minimal damage to the remains from critters from that area. They did find the tranquilizer in her bone marrow. In addition, they found metabolic processes of the tranquilizer, which means she was alive for a while and had digested it and it was breaking down in her body. Very interesting things to come. And I think he's got what was it, 2 million, 3 million cash bond?
3 million cash bond.
Yeah, 3 million cash bond.
So yeah, I mean, this guy's a piece of shit, and he thought he was going to get away with it. The amazing part is that his daughters walked out of court with him just a short time before he was set to go to trial. And we watched them walk out and give interviews and say, oh, we knew he was innocent all along. Everything, all roads point to Barry Morphew. Let's take a listen to this little piece here, and we'll be right back. This is from one of the local affiliates.
3 years after the case was dropped, Barry Morphew is once again charged for his wife Suzanne's murder. Morphew is now back in custody again and facing new murder charges. 90s legal analyst Scott Robinson is joining us now as we continue our coverage today. And Scott, Morphew's case was dropped in April 2022. I mean, just days before he was set to go to trial. Remember, everybody's mouth kind of dropped open in the newsroom. What changed? What's different today?
Well, the prosecutorial misconduct in the original proceeding was literally outrageous. What looked to be a key DNA evidence actually wasn't even turned over to the defense in timely fashion. So that's why the case was dismissed. It's noteworthy that these charges are now filed in the 12th Judicial District because the remains were found in Saguache County. And that's why we have the district attorney for the 12th Judicial District, a different judicial district this time, in charge of the case. But that's why the case was dismissed originally. It was prosecutorial misconduct so pervasive that the judge felt that the case needed to be dismissed.
Yeah, let's talk about the circumstantial evidence here. We're talking about a tranquilizer, according to the indictment, that was found in her bone marrow, that they were able to test in her bone marrow. And the last line of this indictment is it feels pretty like terse and strong. The only person that had access to this specific type of tranquilizer was Barry Morphew. That's essentially the last line of the indictment information here. Talk about that.
It is. Apparently this it has to be done with a prescription to get this particular tranquilizer for deer. And Barry Morphew was able to do that previously in a different state. And the only folks here in Colorado that have...
All right, stand by, folks. I believe the press conference is starting, so I want to just switch to that and bring it straight to you guys live.
And Colorado Bureau of Investigation, Agent in Charge Chris Adams, ADAMS. Chris Adams. Chaffey County.
All right, we're going to start it on a
My
little
name
bit.
is Megan Bagwell. I'm the Director of Administration for the Office of the District Attorney here in the 12th Judicial District. Standing behind me is District Attorney Ann Kelly, that is Kelly, who you'll be hearing from shortly. I also have Sheriff from Saguache County, Dan Warwick, Warwick. Chaffey County Sheriff, Andy Rorick, Rohrich, and Colorado Bureau of Investigation, Agent in Charge, Chris Adams, ADAMS. After District Attorney Ann Kelly's statement, she'll be available for a few questions. Any other questions after that can be directed to media@da12.state.co.us. Thank you.
I appreciate the members of the media that are here today. I scheduled this briefing to provide an update on the investigation that has been in the hearts and minds of the people of Chaffey County since Mother's Day of 2020. Suzanne Morphew was reported missing on Mother's Day 5 years ago. Law enforcement has never stopped working to obtain justice for this mother of two, this daughter, this sister, and this beloved member of the Chaffey County community. Through the tireless efforts of the Chaffey County Sheriff's Office, the Saguache County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I can announce today that the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned an indictment. The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree. Law enforcement, the Chaffey County community, and Colorado as a whole has never stopped fighting for justice for Suzanne. Cold case homicides are tremendously difficult. They're difficult for the families of the victims and the communities who wait patiently for answers. While it may seem at times that the world forgets about these victims, I can assure you that my law enforcement partners and Colorado's law enforcement community do not forget. Every unsolved murder is a tragedy, and we must never give up on our efforts to find answers in these cases. My office will be prosecuting the indictment as Suzanne's remains were found in Saguache County, which is a county within my jurisdiction, the 12th Judicial District. I am extremely appreciative of Michael Doherty, who is the elected district attorney in Boulder County. He has consistently committed material resources to small rural DA's offices like mine to assist in the sometimes Herculean efforts to bring justice for victims in rural areas of our state. His commitment to rural Colorado he's continued his commitment with this case. He's provided me with the assistance of a chief deputy in the Boulder County District Attorney's Office to assist me with the investigation and the prosecution. Colorado's community of prosecutors is committed to assisting wherever the need arises. In addition to Mr. Doherty's assistance, District Attorney John Walsh of the Denver District Attorney's Office has committed to providing me with appellate guidance during the case proceedings. So today I have with me Chaffey County Sheriff Andy Rorick. I stand united with Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker. I stand united in announcing this indictment. Through this process, I have seen firsthand how deeply Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker and the entire Sheriff's Department in Chaffey County cares about this case. I am proud and appreciative of our cross-jurisdictional partnership and their hard and excellent work. I also stand with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who has never wavered in its commitment to this investigation, providing essential intelligence and investigative resources and expertise through the years. I also recognize and appreciate our continued partnership with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation has done incredible work, and their CBI agents and analysts have worked very, very hard to advance the goal of finding answers in this investigation. Here representing the CBI is Agent in Charge Chris Adams with CBI's Pueblo office. I also stand with Saguache County Sheriff Dan Warwick, who is here with me as well. He and his office immediately answered the call to action, when Suzanne's remains were found in the county he represents. Sheriff Warwick and his deputies are an essential part of this team, responding to the recovery of Suzanne's remains with the highest level of dignity and professionalism. I also want to continue to recognize what I have come to expect in my years as a prosecutor, and that is multi-jurisdictional and multi-state cooperation and partnership. I want to recognize the Arizona Department of Public Safety, who immediately responded to our team's request for assistance in locating and arresting Barry Morphew in the Phoenix area. Mr. Morphew will be held by Arizona authorities pending extradition proceedings in that state. And upon conclusion of those proceedings, Mr. Morphew will be transported to Alamosa County to stand trial on the indictment. This indictment has been unsealed upon the arrest of Mr. Morphew. I asked for this briefing to provide you with an update and provide information to the community. Me and my team recognize the importance of being laser focused on the prosecution and to speak with one voice. And so for that reason, all of the agencies that have been involved in getting us to this place, as well as the prosecutors that have been willing to assist me in this investigation and prosecution, they have all been instructed to send any media requests to my office. And so that's what I'd ask of you. In an effort to be transparent, I'd like to thank the the Office of the Judicial District in this district for making the indictment immediately available. And so you can get a copy of that indictment on the State Judicial's website. It is linked on a page labeled Cases of Interest, and it's under Alamosa. Barry Morphew is presumed innocent in this case and that presumption remains with him unless and until he is convicted at trial. And so once again, thank you for allowing me to provide an update to the community on this very important case. And I can take a couple of questions if you have them. Yes, sir. And thank you for the question. The question was, what was Barry doing in the Phoenix area? I appreciate the question, and that information was still being gathered. We have been working very, very hard to make sure that we run down anything we can with respect to this investigation, and our law enforcement officers will certainly be following that. Yes, sir.
In the indictment, you noted that rendered the recipient unable to resist any constriction to the recipient's ability. Do you believe the dosage of ban was so great it killed her, or that she was so incapacitated to strangle herself?
And thank you for that question. I am looking forward to having our team present all of those facts in a court of law. Obviously, I would like to be able to provide my comments, but my ethical obligations will not allow me to. However, I am very appreciative of the Judicial Department for making that indictment available, and I look forward to having our team present this case in court. Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. And so we, as prosecutors in Colorado and law enforcement in Colorado, we are very dedicated to making sure that we don't forget the victims of cold case homicides. But we also understand that it is so important to make sure that we have done everything we can to bring a case to court And we are proud of the work that we've done. Every victim of homicide, murder in Colorado deserves that kind of attention, deserves that kind of work from law enforcement. And I would say that having the opportunity to work on these cases and to bring justice for these victims has been very important to me. Yes. Yeah, let me. Yes, sir.
Was Morphew surprised? Was he expecting this?
And thank you for that question. The question is whether or not Morphew, what Mr. Morphew's reaction was. And I can tell you that that's going to be part of the case, and we look forward to presenting that in front of a jury. Yes, sir.
So the male DNA was found in Suzanne's car. We pulled right using that evidence for this trial.
And thank you for that question. The indictment has a wealth of information about that particular topic, as well as the probable cause that supports the arrest in this case. And obviously, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that justice is done for Suzanne. And that includes being as thorough as we can about the facts of the case.
Another question. When you arrest Barry in Arizona, so that's still investigating right now with Arizona law enforcement?
So the Arizona Department of Public Safety has been an incredible partner for us. They organized immediately when we asked them to respond when we received the indictment. So I very much want to thank the Arizona Department of Safety. But, sir.
What will be the biggest difference between the prosecution of this case and the time versus back in 2021?
And the question is, what would be the difference between the prosecution of this case and other prosecutions? You know, justice for cold case homicide victims remains a priority in the state of Colorado, both for prosecutors and for law enforcement. And that's despite any challenges that we may have had in the history of any particular case. That remains a priority for us. And so we have worked very hard to move forward in the case. This case is a different case, and I would refer you back to the indictment in this case. And we've worked very hard to move forward. Yes, sir.
On an emotional level or on a personal level, and it's okay if you repeat yourself, can you talk about the journey, your journey from the day this was dismissed until today? Just broad strokes. Just tell us that story.
Well, thank you for that question. The question is, what has this process looked like, essentially? What has this process been like for the family, for the community, for our law enforcement partners? And I can tell you that it has been a long road. It has been a long road, and the families of the victim have been so patient. The community has been so patient. But I can tell you that our law enforcement officers have never forgot, have never given up. And they have been working so hard to get to the place where we are today. And so it is never enough to say we're just going to forget about it because it's too hard. And so that has been the process for me. And I'll take maybe one more question here in the front. Mm-hmm. So it was in and around the town of Moffat, and that raises an important question that I want to address. And so the remains of Suzanne Morphew were found in Saguache County, and that's obviously a county in my jurisdiction. And so jurisdiction in this county is appropriate. I can tell you that I have reached out to and contacted my friend and colleague, elected District Attorney Jeff Lindsay, who currently covers Chaffee County. He is in full support of our efforts to prosecute this case here and has committed to providing any resources that we need to prosecute this case.
How did you know Morphew was here?
And the question is I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How did you know Barry was here?
And I appreciate that question. We obviously have never given up on this investigation. And so working with our law enforcement partners, we were able to make that determination.
Could anyone else possibly face charges?
So right now we have the indictment in front of us, and we're committed to working hard to get that done. So, and this will be the last question. Thank you so much.
Just one last question. From a community perspective, perspective. This community's been through a lot with the district attorney's office, and we've watched you take it over and repair it, stand here with law enforcement, something this community might not have seen in the past. We've watched you build a staff. Now we're at the point where we've got all kinds of television cameras here because you've done what you've done in this particular case. Speak to what kind of satisfaction you have and gotten here, and is the job done with your staff, and can you now move forward?
Well, and thank you. The question relates to the status of our district attorney's office and how and where we've been in the last 3 years. And thank you for the question. The effort that we undertook to come to the San Luis Valley, that I undertook to come to the San Luis Valley and build the district attorney's office was quite tremendous. But I can tell you that the collaboration of prosecutors across the state to assist me, to assist my staff, to assist law enforcement has been absolutely tremendous. It is a testament to how strong our law enforcement community is and how united the prosecutors in the state of Colorado are. And so assisting me in building the office in the San Luis Valley, that is a testament to the assistance that I've received across the state. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for what you've done.
One last question. When do you expect Barry Morphew to show up in court?
Thank you. So he's currently being held by the authorities in Arizona. He will go through a process of extradition, and when that process concludes, he will be then transported back to Colorado. So thank you so much.
All right, Ed. So there we have it. Not a lot of information. We didn't expect to get a lot of information, but essentially the reporters asked a couple of different questions. I wrote them down. It was hard to hear that, but I'm glad she repeated some of them. But you know, the one question that was asked, what was he doing in Arizona? Well, he got out of Dodge. He got out of Colorado when these charges were dropped against him. So, but who knows what he was doing there? And she did allude to that, like, hey, this is part of our case and we can't really talk about it. Ed, some of the ladies and gents in the chat were talking, well, we're so glad that her body was recovered. These were bones, right? This was not, this was skeletal remains. We talked about this 21 months ago. Do you want to just talk a little bit about this evidence of what they're talking about with the dart? I know we started speaking about it. That was the spent dart that was found in, I think, the dryer or the washing machine.
What was the cap of the dart was found in the dryer after the clothes were removed from law enforcement. So yeah, the tranquilizer called BAM. You need to get a prescription from a vet to get this tranquilizer. And in the Colorado area where he lived, there was nobody but a federal agency that had that BAM, and all of their BAM was accounted for. All of their tranquilizer were accounted for. Now, he had purchased BAM, had it prescribed by a vet in Indiana because he was a rancher of some type, raising, I believe, deer, was what I was told. And so he had gotten a few of those prescriptions filled, and when he moved, he had brought it with him to Colorado. Okay, inside of his gun safe, they found the tranq gun in the front of the safe when you open the door towards the front, and they found hypodermic needles and so forth that you would transfer the BAM to the tranq dart to use in the gun. And he has given interviews to law enforcement where he said that he had recently tranked an animal from his house in his backyard or something to that effect.
And he was the person in the Colorado area that had, you know, a prescription for this type, that BAM.
Well, not in Colorado. His prescription was in Indiana, but he brought it with him. He was the only one that had possession, a civilian that had possession of that in the Colorado area where he lived.
Yeah, he brought it there, and they checked the records, and then according to, I'm going to just put it up, this is the grand jury indictment, probable cause affidavit. It's 10 pages long, but they list everything in this document. I'll have it linked in the description. You know, we're not going to read through it, but really it's just one count of murder in the first degree. So, you know, it spells it out. We're not going to, you know, read through the document. If you guys want to take your time to read through it, it does talk about an expert right here with the DNA analysis, and did all kinds of, they brought a forensic anthropologist in, entomologist, that's the bug doctor, right?
Odontologist, the dentist.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of electronics here too, just like we just had in Karen Reed's case, because they never did recover her phone, but they got his phone. He did some deletions. He shut his phone off certain time periods. And it also looks like he may have manipulated the infotainment system data collection, because there are things that are not normal in the information that's in there, and information that is missing when, you know, he's clearly using his vehicle because they capture him on surveillance cameras in the area where he's running around with his vehicle, dropping garbage in different receptacles in the town that he was allegedly there staying in a hotel to do a construction job.
Yeah. About a year ago, we covered this case, and the local news affiliate Denver 7 and various other outlets talked about the substances that were revealed in the autopsy of these bones. And then people ask, well, Ed, you know, how do they do autopsy on bones? How do they get this information from human remains, skeletal remains?
Well, again, the pathologists, the anthropologists are looking at those bones and looking, there was very limited tissue that was left there. And in fact, they report in this grand jury indictment that the bones were bleached and that they believe this wasn't the spot of decomposition, that she was brought to some other location or locations. We don't know where she decomped. And then the bike clothing was there, but had no signs of being worn by the victim as she was decomposing. That's a very interesting dynamic as well, that they have that information again. And then the entomologists, like our good friend Ian from Australia, he was brought in because, and they said, well, there's no entomology evidence, so there's no indication of how long this body has been here, because we have predictable insect activity that help identify time of death and time of deposition and so forth, and we don't have that here. So that was interesting as well. And then yes, the trank information. So they went into the bone marrow of the long bones and were able to extract materials, because this is not normally done in toxicology. This was a specific test requested from the medical examiner's office for this toxicology by law enforcement. And so they went into the bone marrow, took a sample, and did the toxicology analysis and found the BAM in there. Again, also they found the metabolic processes on the BAM as it was being digested and breaking down. So that gives you an indication of she was tranked and she wasn't killed immediately. Okay, she was probably immobilized and her body was metabolizing it while she was alive. And if you look at the medical examiner's report, they only give you a homicide. They don't, of unknown origins. They don't know how she was killed. Right, because they have no organs, right? So she, if she was immobilized by the tranquilizer, it would be very easy to suffocate her. Okay, but we have none of that information. We have no tissue. We have no organs. No blood. So they can't determine exactly. I mean, apparently, the anthropologist looked at the bones, and nothing has been reported to suggest any kind of broken bones or blunt force trauma damage. Nothing is reported. That doesn't mean it isn't there. They just may not have put it in the indictment. They don't have any information about any stab wounds to the bones or gunshot wounds or anything like that. Now, you know, somebody wrote about in the chat about the hyoid bone. And so there's no indication of that as well. And you know, that bone is not attached to anything else. So
Right.
it could be easily lost
Right.
in transitioning the skeleton from one place to the next place.
And quite clearly in the autopsy, well, in what they released through the media, what's been released publicly, he transferred or allegedly transferred her remains from one location to another. Don't forget, Ed, and the audience, he was out in a Broomfield job at a hotel, and he was seen on camera moving around during the course of the day. It was a Sunday, I believe. But in 2020, he was seen going from dumpster to dumpster with bags, discarding what we would believe to be evidence. So Barry Morphew, and this is so reminiscent of the crime in Connecticut with Photostoulos, and where we saw him depositing remains of the victim. You know,
And the next case in the Commonwealth.
oh yeah, Sandra Birchmore.
No, Walsh.
Oh right, yeah, Brian Walsh. Yes, thank you. I was just watching a video of that. Let's take a listen to. This is from a year ago, so this is a little older, but it does go over the components that were revealed during the autopsy of the bones.
Breaking right now on Denver 7 News at 11, we are learning new details into the investigation of Suzanne Morphew's death. Morphew went missing on Mother's Day of 2020. Her body was found last September in Moffat, 45 miles away from where she was last seen. Now, according to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, an autopsy report is now complete and her death has been ruled as a homicide. And while we are still waiting for the report to be released to us, CBI says it was shared with the Morphew family. CBI says Morphew's death is still undetermined, but did say these.
Here's the drugs that you refer to, the acronym BAM, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did some reading on this, and really, this has not been tested for human use. This is for, like you said, animals, and it's alleged that he somehow injected these drugs into her. And look at this, you know, sedative that can decrease animals' heart rate and breathing, you know. So,
yeah, it's not FDA approved for human use.
right.
So
they
it shouldn't be in her body.
Right.
Drugs you see on your screen were involved. The National Institute of Health explains the first is a synthetic opioid painkiller, and the second is a sedative commonly used as a tranquilizer for pigs and elephants. The FDA says the last is a sedative that can decrease an animal's heart rate and is commonly used by veterinarians. Now, we will be following the story throughout the day.
Despicable. It's just so sinister that somebody who was at one time a loving family, a husband and wife, that this monster did what he did, and we don't even know. He's been walking around free for quite some time, but
yeah, his daughters backed him 100%, and he had that female defense attorney. Is he going to be using her again? Is it going to be the same defense team?
Yeah, Eton was her name. I don't think he has the same attorney. But let's listen to this legal expert. We were halfway through it before the press conference started.
The only person that had access to this specific type of tranquilizer was Barry Morphew. That's essentially the last line of the indictment information here. Talk about that.
It is. Apparently, this it has to be done with a prescription to get this particular tranquilizer for deer. And Barry Morphew was able to do that previously in a different state. And the only folks here in Colorado that have had that available to them in 2020 was the Department of Wildlife and Forestry, and it's not their tranquilizer. So the presence of that
was when he was walking out. Eton, his attorney, turned to the camera and said, "This is what innocent looks like," or something like that. Something disgusting.
Metabolite in the remains of Suzanne Morphew was extraordinarily powerful evidence. But there certainly is a wealth of other circumstantial evidence which seemingly implicated Morphew in the death of his wife.
But everything is circumstantial, right? Strong nonetheless. But like, how easy is it to convict somebody with only circumstantial evidence? Like, what outcome do you see with this?
You know, the jury is told that there's no real difference between direct evidence, I saw this, and circumstantial evidence. And the reality is this: eyewitnesses can be mistaken, and you can misinterpret circumstances, but circumstances are circumstances, and they don't lie, they're not mistaken. So in any case, the fact that a case may be only circumstantial is actually a misstatement. It could be very powerful evidence. And in this case, that included phone records, odd activities attributed to Morphew, and a variety of other factors that sure seemed to implicate him in his wife's death. It was that strange DNA in the glove box of her vehicle that really was a problem, at least initially. And certainly when you read the indictment, it looks like they're downplaying the significance of that DNA, which at least initially was reported to be connected to sexual assaults in 2 other states. We weren't present.
Remember, that's the DNA from the glove box inside of Suzanne Morphew's vehicle, I believe.
Right. And they ran that down to the out-of-state people and eliminated them through investigative means. I mean, that was a bit of a word salad. Is he a lawyer?
He is a lawyer. Yeah.
Oh, you know, circumstantial evidence is circumstantial. No shit.
Yeah, but it's, there's a whole lot of trials that are that come to a guilty verdict with a pile of circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence is wrong.
The Kimes case, the mother and son con artist. I had no true forensics. Okay, all we had was circumstantial. We didn't have a body.
Right.
And we ended up getting the conviction based upon the totality of the circumstantial evidence I recovered from the vehicle.
One more, and then we're going to wrap it up because we have a back-to-back video coming up here. We're going to be covering a little bit of Karen Read. There's some things that were shared last night that we're going to go over. So you will all be teleported over to our 9 p.m. live stream for Karen Read. So if you're here for any updates in regards to that, Ed is going to go over the photographs. Ed and myself, we're going to go over the photographs that were released on Twitter yesterday inside of 34 Fairview. So we're going to go into that a little bit tonight.
This news anchor guy kind of reminds me of Hank Brennan. Get rid of him.
I know, but we got to let him talk.
5 years after Suzanne Morphew disappeared, there is another major twist in this case. Her husband, Barry Morphew, is once again facing charges for her murder. The case has taken all sorts of turns since Suzanne disappeared on Mother's Day back in 2020.
Today, prosecutors announced new charges against him and said he's in custody in Arizona. 9 News reporter Spencer Soysher joins us now with more. Hey, Spencer.
Yeah, grand jury returned an indictment for first-degree murder in connection to his wife's death. Barry Morphew has denied any involvement in her death. Since she disappeared, her case has received national attention. Investigators have said Suzanne went for a bike ride and never...
Do you get PTSD when you see that bike? Because
yeah, when the deputy comes over and starts picking it up with his bare hands, and no crime scene investigation, just like the front yard on the Alberts house. Yeah, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, this gave me just quick flashbacks. We were fired up then. You're fired up now as it pertains to this. They walked it up from down in the trench there, back up the hill with no gloves, and actually let Barry Morphew touch it.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Returned home on Mother's Day in 2020. The last known picture showing her alive was taken the day before and sent to a man in Michigan she was said to be having an affair with. Search crews eventually found her bike and questioned Barry. He said he had just returned from a work trip in Broomfield. He asked if an animal could have killed her. Her body remained missing for years as the criminal case unfolded. Nearly a year after Suzanne went missing, Barry was arrested for the first time. He was about to stand trial for her murder when prosecutors suddenly dropped the charges against him days before the trial in April 2022. Fast forward to October 2023 now. Investigators said they found a body in a shallow grave
So this is the actual location. Ed, we did, I think, an hour and a half live stream on this when this broke.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, a very, very rural area. It's in the middle of the country, flat, flat terrain where her remains were found. They had a bulldozer there. There was many people out at that location, and we have it linked in the description. So if you want to watch that, bring yourself up to date. That was the last reporting that we did on it, because there really wasn't a lot as it pertains to Barry Morphew. And that's why I was so surprised today when I got the message from one of Suzanne's schoolmates from back in Indiana. She texted me. I hadn't heard from her. Her name is Lynn. When Lynn texted me, I was like, whoa, what? So, we quickly put this together. And, it's a case that we've been covering for quite a long time, Ed. So we had to do an update on it. And this is great for the Morphew family. Don't forget her brother, is still looking for justice, and her stepbrother, Tommy, over in California. I'm sure he's watching or going to watch the replay here. We're sending prayers for a successful prosecution this time around. So let's let the rest of this play, and then we'll wrap it up.
In Saguache County, that was Suzanne's. And now today, a new indictment points to her autopsy and cell phone data. Her autopsy listed a mix of chemicals known as BAM as the cause of death. Those chemicals are highly regulated. The indictment says Barry Morphew, was the only private citizen living in Colorado with access to it. Records show no other people or businesses besides Colorado Parks and Wildlife and the Bureau of Land Management had bought BAM. Throughout this back and forth, from charges being filed to being dropped, Morphew has maintained his innocence. His daughters also stood by his side during the first case. They spoke to ABC shortly after prosecutors dropped charges the first time.
We just know our dad better than anyone else. And we know he was not involved in our mom's disappearance.
I just love my girls. And I love my wife. And I just want her to be found.
Barry is being held on a $3 million bond. We expect to learn more about the charges in a press conference tonight. That begins at 6 o'clock. We have a crew headed there now, and we'll bring you updates on air and online on 9 News Plus.
So I'll let you know, in the chat, people were asking how long does it take. There's going to be an extradition hearing. It's a process. We saw Luigi go through it. We saw Brian Kohlberger go through it. It's just a very short hearing. Waiver extradition. Most attorneys advise clients, hey, don't not waive this extradition. Go with the extradition and go back and face the charges. So he should, if everything goes smoothly, he should be back in Colorado early next week. It could happen in one day. Court's up on Monday morning, and they should have him back, in a short period of time. All the logistics are being worked out as we speak about transport, whether it will be by airplane, by vehicle. It's up to the jurisdiction who's doing the extradition. Sometimes the counties or in this case, the state, Arizona sometimes will lend that fixed wing aircraft and fly them back. Who knows? We don't know. And it's probably a security breach to even let that out of the bag. So they just want to get him back and get him back into custody in Colorado. Ed, final thoughts before we get out of here.
Yeah, folks, take a look at the indictment. There's going to be a lot of electronics again here. There was a whole text stream of messages going back and forth. I mean, he was interviewed. He said he had a great relationship with his wife and everything was honky-dory. But the witnesses and neighbors and friends said, no, that wasn't the case. She was very unhappy with him. There's a text stream that he deleted from his phone, but he only kept one text about, we're done, it's over. Let's do what we have to do civilly. And I guess they're talking about divorce and so forth, just shortly before this whole incident transpired and before Mother's Day.
Yeah, so here's the website. I'll link it in the description. It's coloradojudicial.gov. And then it's got the indictment here. It's the first PDF 10 pages. And then a couple of other orders, request for expanded media coverage, order limiting public trial publicity, standing order for court decorum, and so forth. So there's a lot of reading in this. And again, like you said, you just click on it, it opens it up, and then boom, you go right to the indictment. You could read up all about how sinister and how much evidence that they presented. Again, don't forget, this is grand jury indictment. So the prosecutor's not revealing all of their cards here. They're giving what they need to get a grand jury indictment. Some people argue that you can indict a ham sandwich. I don't mean to bring up ham sandwiches again, Ed, but yeah, it's a soft spot for a lot of people. So, but yeah, let's see what happens. We hope that this time around they get it right. And it seems like this prosecutor is pretty sharp, and she's dotting her I's and crossing her T's, unlike Linda Stanley, who was disbarred and banned from any type of work as it pertains to the district attorney's office.
Or law.
Yeah, or law. Yeah, from anything. So she really, she got the boot, and for good reason. She did a lot of stupid things and went on YouTube shows and was, boasting about stuff, not coming up with evidence to prosecutorial misconduct, and then the things that she did was a travesty of justice for Suzanne's family and her dad.
There was discovery issues.
Yeah. And her father, may he rest in peace, Gene, he didn't get to see justice for his daughter, but he did know that Barry was in custody. So that's one good thing, but it is what it is, guys. I want to thank you for being here. We're going to teleport you over to our Karen Reed live stream. You're going to not want to miss that one. It's starting at 9 p.m. So on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I want to wish the Suzanne Morphew's family all of our best. She, her surviving family and friends back over in Indiana, they love her and they miss her. So strength, prayers, and positive vibes. I know, Ed, you always got something to say at the end of these live streams.
Well, again, thank you for being here. Justice for Suzanne is, we're getting closer to that. Again, you could share your time on any true crime channel you like, and we're proud that you are here with us, and we thank you. We're going to transition over to our next show, so it's not really goodbye. So it will be see you later.
Yeah, we'll see you in a little bit, about 10 minutes. Take care. From Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We'll see you soon.